Hi everyone, welcome to another video. And in this video, we're going to be learning how to add, subtract, and multiply polynomials. Now, it is very important to know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide polynomials, but division is going to be a separate video. So make sure to like and subscribe. So before we learn how to add and subtract polynomials, something that you need to know is what is like terms. So like terms are terms that have the same variables and the same degrees. What do I mean by that? So like terms, for example, would be 2x half x and 9x. Now, these three terms have the same variable, so they all have x, and they all have x to the same degree. So there's a 1 here that you don't see, there's a 1 here you don't see, and there's a 1 here you don't see. So these three terms have the same variable, and their variables also have the same degree. Another example of like terms would be 7a squared b, 24a squared b, and 5a squared b. These are like terms because they all have a squared b, and the a and the b are to the same variables in all three terms. Now, what are not like terms? So terms such as 4x and 2y are not like terms because this has a variable of x and this has a variable of y. Also, 4x and 6xy, because this has a variable of x, but this has a variable of xy. And then 4x and 9x squared. Even though they both have x, the x's are to different degrees. So this is to the degree of 1, while this is to the degree of 2. And so they're not like terms. Now, you can only add and subtract polynomials that have like terms. So you can only add and subtract the like terms together. So for example, if I tell you to add 6x squared plus 11x minus 35 and 2x squared minus 4x minus 2. If I tell you to add these two polynomials together, the first thing you're going to do is put the like terms together. So for example, you put 6x squared, this one, and you add it to this one because they share an x squared, which means that they are like terms. So 6x squared plus 2x squared. Then you put the 11x, so you have plus 11x, and its like term in this case is minus 4x. So minus 4x. Lastly, you have minus 35. So minus 35, and its like term is minus 2. So minus 2. Then you just have to add the coefficients of the like terms like you would normally. So you do 6 plus 2, which is 8. So you have 8x squared. You do 11 minus 4, which is 7. So you have plus 7x. And then you do minus 35 minus 2, which is minus 37. So this would be the answer if I told you to add these two polynomials together. Now, when you want to subtract polynomials, it is similar steps to adding polynomials, but you have to be careful because of the negative sign. So just a quick recap of what happens when signs are multiplied together. Addition multiplied by addition still gives you a positive number. A positive number multiplied by a negative number will give you a negative number. A negative number multiplied by a positive number will give you a negative number. And then a negative number multiplied by a negative number will give you a positive number. So for example, let's say I told you to use the same polynomials I gave you before, but now I want you to subtract them. So subtract, I'm going to put it in brackets here, just so that you know what is being subtracted from what. So subtract 6x squared minus 35, and do this minus 2x squared minus 4x minus 2. Now, this part of your polynomial is fine because it's the polynomial that's in front of the subtraction. So it's going to remain exactly the same. So I can just write it as 6x squared plus 11x minus 35. This one, however, you need to be careful with because of this minus sign. So because there's a minus sign, you need to multiply all the terms here with a minus when you take them out of the bracket. So this 2x squared multiplied by the minus will come out of the bracket and become minus 2x squared. This minus 4x will come out of the bracket multiplied by the minus and become plus 4x. And this minus 2 in the bracket will come out of the bracket, multiply by the minus, and become plus 2. So you multiplied this minus sign with each of the terms when you were taking it out of the bracket. And so now you then do the steps that we did in addition. So we put like terms together, and then we add or subtract the way we would normal numbers. So this would become 6x squared, and its like term is minus 2x squared. So I do minus 2x squared, then plus 11x, like term is 4x, so plus 4x, and then minus 35, and its like term is plus 2, so plus 2. So then this gives 6 minus 2 is 4, so you have 4x squared. 11 plus 4 is 15, so you have plus 15x, and then minus 35 plus 2 is minus 33, so you have minus 33. So with subtracting polynomials, you just have an additional step, but once you are able to deal with that minus sign, you follow the exact same steps as addition. Now for multiplying polynomials, I like to break it down into two different kinds. The first one is when you're multiplying the polynomial with a constant, so with the number 1, 2, 3, 4, half, minus 3. And the next one is when you're multiplying with a polynomial that is not a constant. So when you're multiplying with an actual polynomial with terms like x or xy or x squared. So for example, just very generally, if I wanted to multiply a polynomial, I'm going to call my constant a. So I'm going to say I'm going to be multiplying my polynomial with a constant called a, for example. I am multiplying that with the polynomial x squared plus x plus 1. Now, what I'm going to do in this case is something similar to what I did with the minus sign before. I am going to multiply each of these terms with a. So they're all going to get multiplied with a, and it's going to become ax squared plus ax plus a, because a times 1 is a. So when you have a constant and you're multiplying a polynomial, you just have to multiply each term in the polynomial with your constant. Now, when you want to multiply a polynomial with another polynomial, I'm going to use the example ax plus b. So this is going to be my polynomial. And I'm going to be multiplying it with the same polynomial I used in this first case. So x squared plus x plus 1. In this case, you have to make sure that you multiply this polynomial with each term. So what do I mean by that? So let's say we want to first use the ax. You have to multiply this by ax, this by ax, and this by ax. And let's say you wanted to then use b, you have to then multiply this by b, this by b, and this by b. So I'm not actually going to write out what the answer is because I think it'd be a little more complicated, but I'm going to show you an example of how you can multiply polynomials. So let's say you had an example here. So the first one is going to be a constant multiplying a polynomial. In that case, you have to multiply each of these by 5. So then I would end up with 5 times 2 is 10. So I'd have 10x squared. 5 times minus 3 is minus 15. So I'd have minus 15x. And 5 times 4 is 20. So I'd have plus 20. So that's how you're going to multiply a polynomial by a constant. Now, in this case where I have a polynomial multiplying another polynomial, I'm going to break it down into different colors. So first, let's do the 2x, okay? The 2x is going to multiply each of these terms. And so let's do that first. So you're going to have 2 times 3, which is 6. So you have 6. X times x squared is x to the 3. So why? When you have something like x multiplying another x, you have to make sure you're adding the exponents. So if you have x multiplied by x squared, this is x to the 1. It's going to be x, this, plus this, okay? So 1 plus 2, which will be x to the 3. Let's say, for example, we had x to the 5 multiplying x to the 4. You're going to have x to the 5 plus 4. So you're going to have x to the 9. Okay, so x in this case times x squared will give you x to the 3. So you have 6x to the 3. Okay, then you have 2 times minus 6 is minus 12. And x times x is x squared. So you have x squared. And then 2 times minus 12 is minus 24. And you don't have any x, so you just do minus 24x. Okay? Now the second part is going to be using this constant 3. And again, you're going to multiply each term by 3. Okay, so if we do that, we're going to have 3 times 3 is 9. So you have plus 9x squared. 3 times minus 6 is minus 18. So you have minus 18x. And then 3 times minus 12 is minus 36. So you have minus 36, okay? And now we can just do what we did again with addition. So we're going to group like terms and then we're going to simplify, okay? So x to the 3 is the only term that has x to the 6x to the 3 is the only term that has x to the 3. So that just states by itself. So we can just do 6x to the 3. You have minus 12x squared. And then we have another term that has x squared. So we do 9x squared. We have minus 24x. And then we have another term with x. So minus 18x. And then minus 36. And then now you can just simplify it as normal. So you have 6x to the 3. Then you have minus 3x squared. And then you have minus 42x minus 36. And this is going to be your answer once you multiply these two polynomials. So next up, I'm going to be covering, I'm going to do more practice problems for addition, subtraction, and multiplication of polynomials. So make sure you check out that video. And also don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends about this video because it could be very helpful.